Hi everyone. So my father actually sent me a picture from his youth, and this is an image that he's been keeping in his memory box for ages, and it's kind of destroyed. And he asked me if there's anything that can be done to restore it. Obviously the answer is yes, and I thought it would be a very great way of showing some of Photoshop tools and learn something together. So let's get into it. So I loaded up the image on Photoshop already, and as you can see there's a lot that needs to be done to get this image done. First thing I want to do is I want to make it as clean as possible, so I want to get rid of all the scratches and all the dust. Therefore, I'm going to create a new layer and use the spot healing brush tool. Make sure that sample all layers is actually toggled on, because if you do so, you will be drawing on an empty layer and the program is going to automatically sample the image from the layers underneath, meaning that you will be saving a ton of time. Basically, it's just like using the clone stamp tool, but you don't have to click command or control every time, and you don't have to pick and choose the spot. The program is going to do it automatically, meaning that you will be saving a lot of time. And make sure you name your layers, by the way. I never do it, but I'm doing it in this video. Now, people that know me know that I love shortcuts, and I know there's ways that we can save more time. So let's go back to the base layer and let's convert that to a smart object. Now, there's a filter that you can use which is going to remove a lot of the scratches automatically. So go on filter, go on noise and look for dust and scratches. Now, here as you can see, we have to work with radius and threshold. So let's try to explain both of them. The first thing I like to do is I bring my threshold down to 0 and I work on my radius first. Now, what radius does is it's basically blurring your image, so it works just like a Gaussian blur, and your goal is to use the least amount of blur possible to remove the scratches and not compromising the sharpness of your image. So I try to leave my radius as low as possible, and once I found a radius I'm comfortable with, I try to raise my threshold as high as possible, gain back as much sharpness as possible without seeing a lot of the scratches again. And once I find that comfortable spot I'm happy with, I click OK. Now that I'm done with the dust and scratches filter, I can go back to the layer I had previously created and I can remove everything that's left myself. And this is what I had to remove myself, which as you can see it's not that much. This took around 10 minutes. And it would have probably been a 45 minutes to 1 hour job if I didn't use the dust and scratches filter. So that was a good automation. Now, because this image is very old and it was subjected to sunlight, it lost a lot of its color, so I want to create a new adjustment layer, curves, and here I'm going to create a very simple S-curve to bring some of the contrast back, meaning that the shadows are going to be darker and the highlights are going to be a lot more bright. Now, the reason I don't use a brightness contrast layer and I prefer to use a curve layer is because I have way more control on what part of the shadows and what part of the highlights I'm actually hitting. Now, when it comes to recreating parts of images that don't exist, I like to use a method that I call the patch way. So I look for parts of the images that I can copy paste into the part that's missing, that are probably going to work and fit the part that I'm trying to recreate. For example, here I was trying to recreate that part of wall that is not existing anymore, and I could just take a similar part to it and now I just need to make those two merge. The way I like to make my merge is I create a layer mask because that's reversible and I can always go back and change it, and I use a very soft brush. And now as you can see, I'm able to merge those two parts of the wall. And don't worry if there's any artifacts or weird part that is being copied double, we're going to fix that. Now, the tricky part with working on images like this one and using this method is that it is quite time consuming, and this image did take me an hour from beginning to finish. And mostly at the beginning, when you're just starting out using this method or doing this restoration work, you won't probably be able to know exactly which part of the image you should use and where it should be copy pasted or how to merge them together. So it will take some tries. And another thing that you should probably pay attention to is that sometimes you will have to copy paste parts of your images into other images, and you will have to skew them or skew the perspective in order for them to match. As you can see, I'm doing it exactly in this moment. Now, this part is speed up like dramatically. This is 40 minutes of work in like 10 seconds, but everything that's going on is the same. I'm just copy pasting parts of my images into other part of the images in order for me to be able to fix that whole of image that was missing. You don't see this, but sometimes I do take parts that are in focus and I place them in out of focus areas. So in those cases, I like to use Gaussian blur and I blur the parts
in order for them to match, but this is everything I'm doing. Now, once I'm done with all those fixes, I like to put all of them together in the same smart objects because it makes the image far more tidy and the file way easier to navigate. And this is the before and after. So we completely reconstructed the part that was missing. We brought back a lot of the contrast that was missing, and we removed completely dust and scratches. Now, if you want to color your image quickly, go neural filter and hit colorize. Photoshop is pretty good at this. The only thing you want to make sure is that it's set on output as new layer and output as new color layer is toggled on. The reason you want this to happen is because when Photoshop is going to create a new layer for you, which has its blending mode set to color, and it has all the color data in it. If you don't want the algorithm to do this automatically, you can do it manually, and I'm going to show you now how to do it. You can just hit layer, new layer, or click Command Shift N or Control Shift N if you're on Windows. Now you just want to go on mode and set color to it, and then you're gonna hit OK. Now when you choose a color and you color on the layer you just created, you're changing the color of everything that's underneath. So for example, I'm going to be setting a blue color, and I'm going to be coloring the clothes in blue, and I'm going to make the pants a dark gray. Now what I like doing is I use the colorize filter, and then I change the color of things I don't like with the new color layer on top of it. Now on the left side here you can see the original image, in the center you have the black and white finished version, and on the right side you have the colored version. Let me know what you guys think, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.